مجھ کو دیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
ماں تیری دعاؤں سے
ملا ہے جو بھی ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے
جہاں جہاں بھی گیا دل بچھانے لگے، جہاں جہاں بھی گیا لوگ دل بچھانے لگے، یہ ہے تیرا میرا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا، ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا،
یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، یہ کامیابیاں شہرت قدم قدم پہ ملی، نصیب ایسا ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے
طواف میں نے کیا تھی سعی مربادی، طواف میں نے کیا تھی سعی مربادی، جو میں نے میرا کیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے
مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر، مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر، میں دشمنوں سے بچا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے،
تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے، ماں تیری دعاؤں سے
قسم ہے اس میں اجادے کا کچھ جمال نہیں، कसम है इसमें उजागर का कुछ जमाल नहीं उरूज इसको मिला माँ तेरी दुआओं से
तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ तेरी दुआओं से माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा माँ की दुआ जन्नत की की दुआ जन्नत की हवा की दुआ जन्नत की हवा
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Masburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sacoor, and I will be co-hosting the show with Sister SUMAYA Khan. We will be in your company for the next 2 hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We will be interviewing our guest shortly. Today, the date is the 3rd of December 2025, 14 1447. We have quite an interesting show tonight. We're into December, which is the last month of the Gregorian calendar, and the year has gone so quickly. Lots of things are happening, locally and internationally. And in a few weeks ago, we were discussing various issues related to the Palestinian setup. But today we're going local because there's a lot of issues trending locally. Firstly, we sort of always come across the current state of municipalities because municipal elections is about a year away. And what is happening is that people in the different municipalities, that is the municipal managers, the councillors, are beginning to sharp focus in improving service delivery. Because come municipal elections in a year's time, I think they want to prove to the people that they've delivered, and whoever was the ruling party of those municipalities want to start impressing. Also, we're going to chat about this MKWANAZI inquest, and also, it's linked up with the MAGLANGA Commission. Some information relative to that, and we know there's various issues that are being raised in Parliament. And the center of discussion is Musi Kat Matlala's testimony, and he exposes a lot of big things, which is bigger than the Tembiza hospital looting. Now, we've always said that we're concerned about the state of security in our country and the sort of ability of SAPS to control crime in the country. So we know with, MKWANAZI raising a whole lot of concerns against politicians, this has become a very huge inquest, and it could result in a lot of politicians being, dismissed from their positions or have to step aside. So we'll unpack that. There was also comments of the impending removal of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, and we know from various quarters people are beginning to try to vote him out of power. But some of his loyalists have insisted that this is not the case. So we're just going to unpack that briefly. We have several guests this evening to chat on various issues. Samuel Kennedy, who's a political analyst. Ganesh, he's also a political analyst, party head of NIXA, political commentator. Then we have Andre DUVENHAGE, political analyst in WU University. He's the professor there. Later on in the program, we're going to interview HASSAN MOTALA, who will give us some economic indicators. And so far, so good. Besides the price of petrol going up slightly with effect from today, there's also positive news coming through. We know the Rand is doing quite well. The markets are performing quite well. But Hassan will give us an update. Later in the program, if we do have time, we're going to try to interview a former MP of the National Assembly, a very verbose individual who was sick for a considerable period of time, but is now beginning to recover, Ahmed Mansoor Sheikh Imam. We know he ran a party called, so obviously he wants to have a chat after recovered. He thanks people for making duas for him. But later on in the program, we're going to have a chat. But before we go for another nasheed break, I'd like to welcome my co-host for this evening, SUMAYA. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome once again to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum, Jazakallah for having me.
Now, SUMAYA, I know that, you've been in touch with issues on the ground, having a passion for civic activism. You like to attend ratepayer meetings, and you also, on top of the game relating to this MKWANAZI inquest, you've had a sort of chat with various people, politicians, and you've also done some research. You also looked at the impending removal of the ANC president. Perhaps in the next 5 to 7 minutes, I just want you to summarize exactly the current state of municipalities. You have some stats that may be relevant for us to begin to establish, how municipalities are functioning. Bismillah.
When you are doing research and chatting to leadership with municipality, it's quite shocking what you discover, because all of us are so concerned. We complain about infrastructure, we complain about water, sanitation, electricity. But, it's quite sad when we really look at the overall picture. As of 2023 to about 2024, the audit cycle shows only 16% of municipalities in South Africa, that's 41 out of 257, achieved a clean audit. Isn't that shocking? 41 out of 257. One wouldn't think about it, but that's quite dismal. And 84% have financial problems, compliance failures or other significant issues. Many had audit findings, material irregularities, and worse off than that. But again, still, there's investigation and nothing has come out of it. And over the 3 most recent years, municipalities incurred about 87.0 billion in irregular expenditure. 87 billion. That's a hell of a lot, pointing to structural governance and compliance failures again. Again, it goes back to leadership. It goes back to mismanagement. It goes back, do we have to, change every single thing? Something to think about it.
Really frightening statistics, because 87 billion of irregular expenditure is telling you there's mismanagement, maladministration. And I'm sure our guests later on in the program will be able to unpack it with them. And obviously, it's cause for concern going forward towards the municipal elections. I think you want to give us an update on the MKWANAZI inquest, because a lot of people are asking, General MKWANAZI or Commissioner MKWANAZI raised a whole lot of concern. Suddenly, he blew the whistle from nowhere, and it ended off with Mchunu being suspended. He was Minister of Police, Minister Kele being implicated big time. This, what's his name, this Vuzi Cat MAGLANGA.
Yeah.
He's being, he's providing testimony.
He's famous now.
Some frightening remarks that are coming through. He's opening up a can of worms. So in a nutshell, tell us exactly where this thing arose from and in summary where it's going, because we're going to unpack it later.
Should we start with the Woolworths bag? Everyone is very concerned, but let's just do unpack from the beginning a bit, an update. When we're looking at the MKWANAZI inquest, fresh updates and summary of what's happened recently with the MAGLANGA commission. If you think about it, all of them are linked, and that has started because of the MKWANAZI
This is
inquest.
one of the many commissions of inquiry.
Exactly.
Some that are finished and they haven't been implemented, and here's another one.
Exactly. Well, that's South Africa for you. The investigation sparked by allegations, from Inhlanhla MKWANAZI, and where things stand now. So where does things stand now? Because everybody was watching and following. We want to know what's the outcome. It's just like a comedy. We're watching South African comedy. We want to know where it's going. So let's go back why the inquiry started. So let's go to July 2025. KZN Police Commissioner Inhlanhla MKWANAZI made explosive claims, and he was very brave to do that. He said criminal syndicates, politicians, and senior police officials were interfering with investigations. Very brave of him to do that, because one would fear of their lives and their families, especially if you're a whistleblower. He also said that political killings task team in KZN was shut down while it was close to arresting high-level suspects. This was done so quietly, and when it came out, No one could really give an answer. So why was this shut down, And over 121 case dockets were allegedly removed to stop investigations. So it shows that leadership who are in charge in the police force and in government as whole are stopping this, because are they afraid that they might be exposed too? Because you must notice there's a ripple effect. We're getting more witness and we're getting the investigation is continuing. These allegations led to the establishment of the MAGLANGA Commission of Inquiry and a separate parliamentary ad hoc committee. Now, so many committees are being formed all of a sudden out of this. Is it creating employment for more people, or it's just to say that we're doing something? What has happened so far? So let's look what has happened so far. We're going to the MAGLANGA Commission. Well, the hearings officially began in September. That's not very long ago. And MKWANAZI testified first, repeating his claims under oath. He was very brave. A lot of us thought he's jealous. He's just a disgruntled person. He never get half of the pie. He just got maybe a little crumb. What's really going on? Well, he warned that the justice system faces a risk of collapse. Well, basically, at the moment, we think everything in South Africa. So he said the justice system faces a risk of collapse if interference is not dealt with. Now, we're going to ask our guests later on, where do they see this going? And also, the evidence presented, there is evidence. One would think if there's evidence, people would get arrested and, it'll be all over. But it's getting resolved, but it's very slow, hush. You're choosing what you want to do, what you want to expose. There are WhatsApp messages between the police officers and suspected criminals. Details of how the task team was shut down and dockets removed. This is like one of these movies you're watching, American conspiracy movies, dealing with the government. And parliamentary committee. The parliamentary committee has even started, which started in October. So it extended to, they said it looks like it'll extend to like about the 28th of November due to the volume of evidence. But again, all of us are waiting. So what has come out of this so far? We know for a fact there is strong evidence of political interference in police work, links between syndicates, business people and officials. One could practically take a board and have pictures of everyone, and you can see how everyone is linked. Attempts to protect certain suspects by moving or hiding dockets. Now, this tells you leadership is corrupt. This tells you South African leadership in the police force and in general are afraid that they might be exposed, because it'll be a domino effect if one, two, and then eventually everyone. But no final findings or criminal charges have been made yet. So that again, I think the public wants to know, the citizens of South Africa, what's going to happen. So the commission is continuing to call more witnesses, and report deadline, is extended into 2026. So it's continuing. We wonder, is this going to be a 2-year, a 3-year thing, just going on and on? And Parliament will resume its own investigation once the commission is completed. Now, so in short, MKWANAZI has exposed deep corruption and interference in law enforcement, and currently a national judicial inquiry is testing his claims. Well, more hearings are coming and final outcomes are still pending, and we are still waiting to see what's the outcome. So when we get our guest, we're going to ask him some pressing questions and probably put him in the spot, which our listeners probably want to hear. Everyone, what's going on? Is it just a waste of money? Can we compare it to the Zondo Commission? Where is it going?
So there you are, SUMAYA set the scene by summarizing our important discussions for this evening. Later in the program, we're going to chat about the agenda relating to the impending removal of ANC president, and obviously he survived many stunts of his removal. What we're going to do now is take a nasheed break, and after the nasheed break, we'll have the Isha Azan, whereafter we will have a telephonic interview with one of our senior political analysts, DUVENHAGE, where we'll asking several probing questions on the various subjects for this evening. Do catch a listen later on in the program. We'll take a break now.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 Aka. پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سب کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں کوئی ہمیں جگائے کیوں پھر کے دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم کوئی ہمیں چھڑائے کیوں یا رسول اللہ یا حبیب اللہ یا حبیب وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے تو جہان ہے آقا آقا کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہاں جان عشق مصطفیٰ روز فزوں کرے خدا جان ہے عشق مصطفیٰ روز فزوں کرے خدا جس کو درد کا مزہ جس کو درد کا مزہ سانسے دوا اٹھائے کیوں پھر کے گلی دوا دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہے تو رضا میرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم ہے تو رضا میرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم کوئی بچائے سو سے غم کوئی بچائے سو سے غم سازے طرب بجائے کیوں
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
This Adhan is sponsored for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
أعزائي المستمعين، حان الآن موعد أذان العشاء لمدينة دربن وما حولها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands. Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more. Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our #1 priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
This October, Tayo Raham in the sacred city of Taif embark on a life-changing Umrah group tour with World View Travel. Guided by renowned spiritual leader Maulana Muhammad Banker. Experience 2 nights in Taif, 4 nights in Mecca and 5 nights in Medina. Luxury hotels, daily breakfast, round-trip transfers, ziyarats, internal flights and visas. Call 031 001 7062 or 071 835 0216. Follow us at Worldview Travel. Worldview Travel creates memories to last a lifetime.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al-Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Join Radio Ansaar for a public meeting to share your concerns, suggestions and feedback regarding our programming and programming-related matters. The date, Saturday, 6 December, 12 to 1 p.m., North Beach, outside Debonair.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Ansaar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Ansaar, keeping you informed.
سيدنا صلى الله عليه وسلم तमन्ना है शहरों का सरदार देखो मदीना की गलियां वो बाजार देखो जहां भेज दी रब ने जन्नत बनाकर हबीबे खुदा का वो दरबार देखो तरसती हैं आँखें जिन्हें देखने को वो गुंबद वो जाले वो मीनार देखो गमों में गुजारी है ये जिंदगानी खुशी के वहाँ दिन मैं 2-4 देखूं.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. We now have Professor Andre DUVENHAGE, political analyst from Northwest University. Prof, good evening and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International.
Good evening. Nice talking again.
Prof, I thought I'll just play some melodious poetry for you while you were waiting for me on the phone. It's a poem that is recited by one of our artists talking about how good mankind should be towards humanity. And that's exactly what we need, the political turmoil we're going through in this country. Now, before we got you on the line, we were briefly chatting about the current state of municipalities, and one of my co-hosts, SUMAYA Khan, was giving some frightening stats. And she mentioned that 16% of the municipalities only got unqualified audit reports 84% had qualified. Then she said that amounts to 41 of the 257 municipalities. Then she says that 84% of the municipalities have financial problems, material irregularities, and are under investigation. And there's 87 billion worth of irregular expenditure to date. Perhaps you want to comment on that, Prof, before we have our discussion further.
Well, I can say I agree with that statistics and the figures, and there's no doubt that anything, depending on the degree of problem, between 60 and 80% of our municipalities, and I think the total is close to 80%, is dysfunctional in the extreme sense of the word. 60% is to a larger extent also dysfunctional in ways. So this is an extreme problematic scenario. They cannot deliver basic services. They cannot operate in terms of the Constitution. That is why we have the Article 139 A, B, C, and D interventions. And the provincial governments, especially in my province, Northwest, didn't work. They intervened, and this also didn't help. And they escalated it to a national level. And then the national level didn't attend to the problems. And I'm now referring to Ditsabotla, specifically the old Lichtenburg. And there's other municipality in Northwest as well. And at the end of the day, it was AfriForum or one of these institutions of the Solidarity Movement, the Handelsinstituut, or one of these, taking the national government to court in order to force them to give attention to the situation in municipalities. So this problem is a huge problem. It's also a problem where there's a lack of political will to act. And this in the build-up to the 2026 elections. And while you talk statistics, it is interesting that we had in the 2021 local elections, out of the 257 municipalities, about 70 that ended up in hung parliaments, no full majority for a single party. I believe that total can even double into the next election end of next year. And this will bring coalition politics to many environments. Now, this is advantage in some ways, but in other ways, it is also the reality of patterns of instability. So I'm a bit concerned about our future scenario as far as local government in South Africa is concerned.
Now, I was going to ask the question going forward towards the municipal elections, which is about a year away. And the political parties are going to sort of mobilize and start preparing. I mentioned earlier on in the program that some municipalities are now under pressure to start improving service delivery. And in whichever way they can, they're going to try to impress the ratepayers. Now, from a ratepayers perspective, many ratepayer associations I've been interviewing in the last couple of months are beginning to mobilize and realize that we got to be active from a civic perspective, and we need to decide which kind of leaders we're going to put forward for elections, because you got two types of councillors. One is you got the ward councillor, and then you got the PR councillor, depending on the number of votes a particular party gets. Now, some of the old parties in the bloc, like the ANC, IFP, the Democratic Alliance, now we've got MK, you've got the EFF, and the like. These are the bigger parties. There are going to be other new parties emerging that's going to begin to challenge these parties going forward. We know Africa Mayabuya has now come into the block, where Floyd Shivambu and a lot of guys that were holding senior positions and other parties have mobilized and formed this movement, Africa Mayabuya movement. And obviously there's concerns about their performance, etc. So how do you see people reacting to the municipal elections in the next 12 months going forward, Prof?
Okay, let's take a number of patterns and work from there. I think it's going to become a very complicated picture that is very difficult to predict, and we are most probably working with 257, in a way, different scenarios. But the fact of the matter is, one of the major tendencies is the fragmentation of the political process. Now, what I'm referring to is the number of parties that will be active in the political process. At the moment, we are talking about more than 500 parties that are registered with the Independent Electoral Commission. So there's a huge lot of new parties, and what we are picking up is that some of the bigger parties are losing support. The second very important tendency is that the voter outcome, which is already very low on a national and provincial level, is even lower on a local level. And that has a tendency to influence specifically the ANC in a very negative way. So I'm reading high levels of political apathy within the system. Thirdly, I am reading that the process in its fragmentation is going to accommodate sometimes a great number of political parties. We may end up in the type of scenarios where there's easily up to 10 parties that receive representation within the councils of the respective local structures. And this can end up in very complicated negotiations among political parties. This may also end up in what we can refer to as asymmetrical structures. For example, in Municipality A, there's an arrangement between the ANC and the IFP. And in another environment, there's an arrangement between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, or whatever the case may be. There's going to be a number of reconfigurations. And it will be interesting to see how political parties are going to positioning themselves when it comes to alliances and cooperation, and how this will influence the principles and the norms within each of these parties. Then another tendency that I think is important is the fact that the tax base is not strong enough to keep local structures going. And what we are seeing is an influx of people throughout Africa into South Africa. And we have seen that many of them are registered as voters. They are not effectively citizens of the country, but they receive papers as if they are citizens. So that's a huge problem. They are not contributing, but they are depending on the services of local structures. That is specifically a problem in a metropole, all the metropoles, but in particular in Johannesburg. But it's also a pattern in, for example, my own local municipality in Potchefstroom, Tlokwe, and JB Marks is the most recent name. So I think there's going to be major challenges. I also believe we can expect high levels of conflict in certain areas, and I'm expecting parties to perform strong in one area and weaker in another area. I think we have ending the times of parties receiving support on a national basis. The two, maybe three exceptions to this rule is the ANC, the DA, and maybe a party like the MK party or the EFF, but basically the DA and the ANC, and I think the ANC support base is going to drop. The surveys are showing a support base of 30%. In fact, the ANC always performing weaker when it comes to local elections in comparison to national and provincial elections. And as far as the DA is concerned, we need to look what is going on with the internal dynamics involving Steenhuisen and Dion George and how this may impact on the Democratic Alliance in terms of the election.
Now, Prof, as far as national is concerned, we have the GNU in place because the ANC had to align and form a coalition with the DA and a few other parties. Then we have the provincial national unity in many provinces, or provincial government of national unity. Now, depending on the voting patterns, because if the votes are heavily politically split, whether you're going to have a municipality of national unity with the coalitions of sorts happening is going to be questionable, because you mentioned that this coalition politics, depending on the municipalities, could be quite complex, and it might not necessarily follow the pattern of the GNU and PNU. So do you strongly believe that we're going to have a mixed bag in those, many municipalities throughout the country in terms of, after the results, how they're going to start having a coalition formed?
I'm seeing huge asymmetrical forms of cooperation within different municipalities. In fact, if you look at the outcome of the 2024 elections, you refer to the government of national unity, but you will find that the coalition at the moment in the Gauteng province differs fundamentally in structure from the one that is active in KwaZulu-Natal. To give you just two examples, there's an asymmetric line, and the one in Gauteng on a provincial level differ from the one on a national level. So there's already asymmetrics involved here. I believe this phenomenon to be even more prominent, more dominant when it comes to local government, because of the fact that local government is very close to the people. There's a lot of direct interests in issues. There's more other type of issues that may play a direct role in elections. We may see taxpayers performing better on a local level in comparison to a provincial level. For example, we may see individual candidates that have strong support within a local environment can be more active and more prominent. And we have seen in a recent by-election where individual candidate basically won against the ANC, the DA, and the Patriotic Alliance. So I am expecting a lot of changing patterns, which is unique to every smaller political ecosystem, in this case referring to local government environments. And this may make the whole process very complex, very dynamic, but also unstable.
Prof, just before we go on a news break for the last 5 minutes, this MKWANAZI inquest through the MAGLANGA Commission is taking place, and we had a brief discussion on the subject. And obviously, this has now opened up another can of worms where, MKWANAZI is exposing all forms of corruption. And with the testimony of Vusimuzi Kat Matlala, it's really making the investigation very interesting. That on the one side is taking place. It's affecting the ANC big time. And then there was a proposal within the ANC ranks to remove the ANC president Ramaphosa, and obviously his supporters shot that down. Now, these two factors, how do you see them affecting the future of politics in this country going forward, starting off with the local government elections?
Well, I think both these factors are very negative for the ANC. And I believe the ANC support is going to be below 40% when it comes to the local election, if you measure this on a national level. And there's no doubt that there's a lot of smoke around Cyril Ramaphosa, and where there's such a lot of smoke, there must be fire also. I have no doubt that there are huge conflict within the structures, and there are forces at work trying to remove Cyril Ramaphosa. That is not a new phenomenon, that is an old phenomenon, but it seems as if there are groupings that would like to take this issue to the National General Council meeting of the ANC that is scheduled, I don't know exactly when, but it is in the near future. Now, this is not an elective conference, but it can serve as an instrument to organize and mobilize support against the president. We have seen what came out of the Eastern Cape, where there was an open request to remove Cyril Ramaphosa. I know for a fact that his deputy is very active campaigning for that position. We know that the Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, has his own political aspirations. So I have no doubt that this is negative for the ANC in terms of its support base. And I will be surprised if Cyril Ramaphosa survive until the next elective conference of the ANC, that is the end of 2027. And if he survive until then, I believe this will be most probably also the end of his political career. Now, if we look at the MKWANAZI investigations, the MAGLANGA Commission on the one side and the ad hoc committee, this is bad news for the ANC. News that are in the faces of all the citizens on a constant basis. You can follow it like a soapy that is playing itself out on a daily basis. And this is negative in many ways for the ruling party. It is negative for the current government. And I have no doubt that if that process is going its way, and there's already questions coming up that the legislative authority would like to create a framework that can check the president on literally all levels what he or she will do, then in that case, we enter a new phase in South African politics. And I think if there's truth in what MKWANAZI has said, and I think some of it was verified in some ways, then I believe it's going to have major implications for the political elite in the country. And I also believe that this can impact on the president directly with regard to Pala. It may influence his right-hand man, Zenzo Mchunu, and there's also other loyalists that are closely connected to Ramaphosa that may be implicated. A dark factor in this regard is the role the MK party can play, because the MK party, in a way, is a sort of a faction that is trying to influence the ANC, but is organized outside of the ANC, a freedom movement that would like to focus its activity getting rid of Ramaphosa and getting rid of all allegations of corruption. And this can be a very prominent process that will play out during next year in the build-up to the 2026 elections.
Prof, some very, very interesting comments, particularly from what I'm going to conclude on, is the lead up to the ANC presidential elections, whether the Zuma faction will prevail, whether the Ramaphosa faction will prevail. In terms of the presidency of the country, will Ramaphosa survive? Will the GNU, the other parties, support him to still be the president? Some interesting observations to come up. But we thank you, Prof, for joining us as usual. Very interesting, very thought-provoking. We hope to have you back on air sooner rather than later. We thank you and wish you everything of the best, Prof. Good evening. And we will
thank you very much.
Future. Thank you, Prof. That was Prof. Andre DUVENHAGE, political analyst. Some very interesting observations. On that note, we'll take a news break and inshallah we'll continue our discussion after the break.
Radio Ansaar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Ansaar News.
The 3rd of December, the news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. A contractor is in court over 5-year Nkongeni hospital delay. American Monina. The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Public Works has taken a contractor to court maternity complex upgrade for more than 5 years. Officials say the contractor used substandard materials, ignored safety rules, and repeatedly missed extended deadlines. The July 2020 project delays have affected key services at the 207-bed facility, which supports 17 surrounding clinics in northern KwaZulu-Natal region. Spokesperson Steve Bengo says that the days where contractors do substandard work and get paid while the public suffers are now over. More news. eThekwini Municipality says it is working on finding a suitable location for a new facility that will provide shelter and support for homeless people. It follows concerns about a growing encampment along the SHAIK Road near Berea. Last month, the Democratic Alliance councillor Andre Bietke raised the encampment issue during an executive council meeting and called on the city to take urgent action. Bietke says that hundreds of people were living along the stretch of the road, creating serious health and safety risk for residents and the public. In a statement to local media, the city says that it is aware of the concerns, including fears that some foreign nationals may pose as homeless to engage in illegal activities. It says the Metro Police will work with the South African Police Service to investigate and verify the legal status of the people there. Last month, the mayor SUMAYA said a new 400-bed homeless shelter in Lower Inlovo is expected to be finalized by December and will accommodate up to 1,000 adults. The city maintains that safety remains a top priority. 4 suspects have been killed in a shootout with the police and private security just outside Camperdown in KwaZulu-Natal. Guns and explosives were recovered at the scene. It's believed the suspects were involved in cash and transit robberies. It came just days after the CIT cash and transit robbery in KwaZulu-Natal. There are concerns that the crime will spike as festive season approaches. Another KwaZulu-Natal man has been handed a lengthy sentence for a double murder and kidnapping. The Mtuba Regional Court found that Alobonkosi Zungu and his 2 accomplices abducted Bongomenzi Dube and Emmanuel Nkosi after accusing them of stealing from him in September last year. The trial heard the men were tied up and beaten up terribly. Nkosi's body was later dumped on a railway line while Dube's body was left on the roadside. The National Prosecuting Authority says an eyewitness who was also held against his will managed to escape and alerted the police. Regional spokesperson Natasha Kara says the 30-year-old Zungu was arrested at his home in Kwa Msane shortly after the incident. And finally, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has escalated territorial demands in Syria, calling for a mandatory demilitarized buffer zone stretching from the fringe of the Israeli occupied Golan Heights to the outskirts of the capital Damascus. Netanyahu issued the demand in a statement today released by his office, delivered after visiting Israeli forces injured during a recent incursion into the Syrian territory. The raid targeted the town of Beit Jin, where Syrian media says that at least 13 civilians, including women and children, were killed. The Israeli regime claimed the operation was directed at militants, but offered no verified evidence for the identities of those killed. Your weather, it's 22 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. KwaZulu-Natal Department of Public Works has taken a contractor to court over what it has described as a delay having paid up to 98 million rands to upgrade the Nkonjeni Hospital in Ulundi. That's the news.
Radio Ansaar, keeping you in the loop.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment, and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our halal coffee and health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies, and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا وجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Ansaar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Ansaar, keeping you informed.
Allah, 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 Allah. تنہا ہوں میں اور امتحان لاکھوں تنے ہیں سامنے بیٹھا ہوں میں مایوس کن آئے نہ کوئی مجھے تھامنے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير معیوب ہوں تیرا کرم پردہ رکھا عزت بھی دی بڑھ کے دیا اوقات سے دولت بھی طاقت بھی اور وقت بھی کر دے خطا ہر معاف تو فہرست اسیاں کو چھوڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رنگینیوں خود غرضیوں میں ہے گزاری یہ عمر ہے آرزو بس کہ یہی کر دوں تیرے نام شام و سحر تسکین دل حاصل کروں رخ اپنی جانب تو موڑ دے اللہ اللہ حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير لبے رہے ذکر و دعا اور تجھ سے میں ڈرتا رہوں کر کے عمل قرآن پہ جنت کی راہوں پہ چلتا رہوں خدمت کروں اسلام کی پچھتاوے کا غم توڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير روتا رہا سجدوں میں جو دل میں لیے امت کا غم پڑھتا رہوں میں تو فتن اپنے نبی پہ درود ہر قدم ہو روح جب تن سے جدا جنت کی جانب چلے دوڑ کر اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. We apologize for the short break in transmission, a few times. That's our basically network issues. Before the news break, we were chatting with Professor Andre DUVENHAGE. He gave us some very, very important information relating to the political situation in South Africa, particularly relating to the current state of municipalities, the impact of the MKWANAZI inquest or the MAGLANGA commission, as well as the impending removal of the ANC president and how he sees the situation prevailing. We also chatted briefly, SUMAYA Khan, she gave us a bit of a summary of the different topics. We have live with us in the studio Naren Ganesh, and SUMAYA would like to raise a few questions pertinent to our subject to this evening. SUMAYA, you can go ahead.
Naren, I'd like to welcome you to News in Focus. Thank you. I know you've got a soccer match. Everyone wants to be home in time. We did a brief introduction. We spoke generally what's going on when it comes to the MKWANAZI, case. It's exposed deep corruption and interference in the law enforcement, and currently a national judicial inquiry is, testing the claims. And it's still continuing. They said it'll probably continue into 2026. How credible do you think his claims are based on the evidence so far?
Look, following the commission and some of the evidence led, and in terms of now the minister who's on leave, special leave, Minister Sanzo, Minister of Police, some of the allegations that have been made or leveled by Lieutenant General MKWANAZI, on the face of it, seems credible, because as the commission has gone deeper into it, we've realized that there are more things that have emanated in terms of evidence. For example, the Major General Petronella, what's her name, Van Rooyen. Now, she is part of the governance, policy, and legislation of the South African Police Services. And she made the statement that Senzo Mkhunu did not have the authority to disband the police killing task team. And that's a serious allegation made by a very senior member of the South African Police Services. Now, Senzo has got some kind of excuses as to why he disbanded because he went above National Commissioner what's his name, Fani Masimola's authority, even as the minister. How much did that political killings task team prove to be effective and successful will never be known, because it was formed, I think, in 2018 because of the political killings, specifically in KZN, with councillors being murdered and stuff like that. So when General MKWANAZI or Lieutenant General MKWANAZI leveled these allegations, and we must remember at some point he was the acting National Commissioner of Police as well, and it has raised and it opened a whole lot of another can of worms that's going to spill and have reverberations and repercussions down the line as the commission goes on. So that's where we stand with it.
Do you know, do you believe the political killing task team was intentionally shut down to protect certain individuals? That's the talk.
Well, that's what's coming out, because there's a lot of people who need to be protected. And if we look at this Kat Smatlatla character, you know, when watching the evidence as he's giving it and being questioned, I mean, the one impressive interview was with Glynis Breitenbach of the Democratic Alliance. She hammered him and she called him straight on the commission, "You are a crook." Now, these people sought protection from the higher authorities politically, because if the corruption was happening in terms of gangsterism, corruption, drugs and stuff, these cartels, the best protection you're going to get is from the political leadership. And that's probably what's going to come out of it. Obviously, I would hope, and I think every South African would hope, that this is not another lame duck commission, in the sense that once it's done and the report is given to the president, it's put in file 13. I mean, KZN, for example, we had the Manasa report, which hasn't been acted upon still. So all these commissions have cost billions.
Exactly.
But nothing has come of it. And that's where we stand with it.
Do you know, when you're looking at accountability, who stands to benefit from the disruption of political killing investigation?
It's the corruptees, those that control the cartels, whether it's corrupt appointments, whether it's gangsterism, whether it's drug cartels. And it's scary that we had to learn that drug cartels have got connections in the hierarchy of governmental leadership. And if this is the case, then I'm afraid all those promises made, and you know, we can point as much as we want to the ANC and stuff. The ANC as a organization had wonderful policies when we started the country in '94 in terms of a democratic order. But it's the people, as the time went on, once the Mandela administration ended, and that was the honeymoon period, and the cookie jar opened, the fingers and the hands became so long and so deep that we, the people, are paying the price now.
Do you know, you tend to think and ask yourself, you know, have these criminal syndicates infiltrated SAPS or our South African government, system, you know, when it comes to justice? And then you ask yourself, if the allegations are true, how high up could responsibility go, operational level or political leadership? You discover it goes all the way up to the head.
Well, if the police minister has been sidelined for various reasons, you know, it's politically correct to say the president put him on special leave or asked him to take leave. There's specific reasons for that, because he is fingered. Now, how much of guilt can be apportioned to him, or how guilty he is, will only depend in the court of law now. You know, a commission cannot determine whether he's guilty or not. They can recommend, there will be recommendations made. The other part that we also have is Shamila Batoy, the NPA. Now, I think she was a lame duck director of prosecutions, you know, because the last commission, the Zondo commission, while the commission was on, there was so much of evidence that was coming out. While the NPA is not an investigative unit, it's a prosecutorial unit, But they should have worked hand in hand with the police and got people to be arrested and stuff. Nothing much is happening.
Exactly. And one asks, why wasn't the task team strengthened instead of being shut down?
Very similar to the disbanding of the Scorpions. Now, the Scorpions had a very powerful effect in curbing crime. They've been disbanded. There was a specific reason for that disbandment, because once you got people being watchdogs over the criminals and the corruptees, you put a stop to it, and then the money doesn't flow. But now, obviously, this PKTT has been disbanded because it would have revealed more than what we would like to know, or the average South African would like to know.
A lot of political analysts and just the basic citizen who's following everything, one tends to question, is there enough independence within SAPS to investigate senior officers? Will that happen, or everything is just hushed?
My take is no. And a very good evidence that we spoke before coming on air is with regards to the commission that's going on currently with the retired municipal manager of Ekurhuleni, Dr. Imogen Mashazi. There was no oversight done by her as the municipal head. And millions, literally millions have been siphoned out. Cat Matlata had blue lights supplied by the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department. No one did anything about it. And they used it at will to commit crimes. Now, the question is, if we don't have the big bosses having oversight, exerting authority, and allowing criminality to fester in the bottom rungs, what chances do we as citizens have?
Since you touched on the Zondo Commission, one would ask, how does the MAGLANGA Commission compare to previous inquiries like the Zondo in terms of seriousness and impact?
I think with the MAGLANGA Commission, it's because of the high-profile leveling of allegations, especially in terms of the police, law enforcement. The frame of reference for the Zondo Commission was very broad. It had many aspects that it could cover. But with regards to the MAGLANGA Commission, I think it's specifically focused on the police corruption and the police ministers and everybody, directors general, etc., etc. So hopefully, once the commission is over, and I would hope President Ramaphosa acts seriously on it, and the directive, look, as the leader of the country, he promises us much, in the SONA, State of the Nation address. Nothing comes of it. It's just a waste of money, I believe, as well. So.
Whistleblowers like MKWANAZI feel unsafe and not supported when it's, coming forward. Do you think more senior officers may stop coming forward with more information?
I would hope not. The only problem is the theft and the thuggery. The food chain in that aspect is very long. There's a lot of people who, like, for example, with the Tembisa hospital, it led to the murder of Babita Dukran. Over 800 million to 1.2 billion has been stolen from South African people. And if people don't come forward, then we've got a little chance to nothing in putting the country right. And we have to act.
I think everybody, our listeners and everyone out there is wondering, what should South Africans expect from the next phase of this commission? What can we expect?
Look, obviously they have to go through all the witnesses that will bear relevance to the accusations that have been made, because you can't just accuse, it's got to be tested. But in terms of the testing in that aspect, in the forum of a commission, once it's complete, it has to be taken to a court of law, because it's only in a court of law that a prosecutorial aspect occurs. And I sincerely would hope that those fingered and those shown to be incompetent, corrupt, will be brought to book. And this time round, not just as lip service, but in real tangible action.
Okay.
We thank you. Some probing questions from SUMAYA Khan. I think it's interesting, to follow this commission of inquiry especially with this guy, Wusimani Kat Matlana, the way he's answering questions, implicating Becky Keller, former Minister of Police, and what's going to happen to him, whether there's going to be criminal charges against him, whether the SAPs will start improving on their service delivery, because recently, reading a lot of police officers are now being apprehended for corruption and being charged, etc. So I think some interesting times ahead. And we're hoping that this will have an effect of improving, criminal, activity or improving prosecutions of criminals going forward. On that note, we'll take a break and inshallah we'll continue our discussions after the break.
Radio Ansaar, 24/7, 365.
One child, one dream. A journey with African Muslims Agency that began 3 years ago has changed the lives of Syrian and Palestinian refugee children beyond their dreams. Help them to continue their education by sponsoring a student at the Amman School of Excellence in Lebanon for 25,200 Rand per year. Education at Amman can provide a brighter future for refugee families.
AMA, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Durban Halal Meats, the butcher with a twist. Whether you're firing up the braai or stocking up for your business, we've got you covered. From premium lamb, beef and chicken to custom cuts and bulk orders, all 100% halal certified by Sanha. Enjoy our convenient buy and braai service, fast delivery and easy online ordering at durbanhalalmeats.co.za. Visit us at 84 Felix Dlamini Road, Durban Halal Meats. Quality, affordability, trust. Meat made better.
Have you heard? The Culinarium is your ultimate destination for your premium home and kitchen essentials and appliances. Stockers of the world's biggest brands at the best prices. Whether you're looking for the latest air fryer or the best in non-stick cookware, the Culinarium has it all. Get the best deal on stand mixers, kettles and toasters, food processors, blenders, dinner sets, pots, pans and much more. Shop online at www.theculinarium.co.za with free delivery for orders over 600 Rand.
Join Radio Al-Ansar for a public meeting to share your concerns, suggestions and feedback regarding our programming and programming-related matters. The date, Saturday, 6 December, 12 to 1 p.m., North Beach, outside Debonair.
Every day, thousands go to bed hungry, but you can change that. With just 10 Rand, you can provide a loaf of bread. This bread is more than just a donation, it is a lifeline for so many families in need. Be part of the Al-Ansar Outreach Slice of Life drive today. Call Outreach on 031 208 1601 and make a difference, one loaf at a time.
The Debonair's Pizza Real Deal is bringing to you 6 amazing flavors from just 31 Rand 90. Perfect for a lunch fix between errands or a cozy moment with the family. Join me, Phoebe Avinafili, on Saturday the 6th of December from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for our live broadcast at Debonair's Pizza North Beach, 139 Lower Marine Parade Street, where all the flavors and prices are waiting for you. Debonair's Pizza. Try something amazing.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
तमन्ना है शहरों का सरदार देखो मदीना की गलियां वो बाजार देखो जहां भेज दी रब ने जन्नत बनाकर हबीबे खुदा का वो दरबार देखूं तरसती हैं आंखें जिन्हें देखने को वो गुंबद वो जाले वो मीनार देखूं गमों में गुजारी है ये जिंदगानी खुशी के वहाँ दिन मैं दो चार देखूं.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the final segment of News in Focus live on Radio Ansaar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. The name is Yunus Sacoor, and my co-host this evening is SUMAYA Khan. We're training here to become an all-rounder, education specialist, youth frequency, and now becoming part of the political framework in News in Focus. Alhamdulillah. Before the break, SUMAYA was chatting with Councillor GANESH about unpacking the MKWANAZI inquest, the state of municipalities, impending removal of the ANC president. But without our finance man, our program is not complete. So we've got Brother HASSAN MOTALA to give us some financial updates on a Wednesday evening. HASSAN, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
HASSAN, I know you went for a dental appointment and you thought you may not be able to chat, but you're back to air, alhamdulillah. I think the GDP numbers, there seem to be quite positive news coming through. Also, the price of petrol has gone up, but it's not as bad as we thought. And that's because of the fluctuating oil prices. The rand is pretty stable at about 17. It's been around that rate for quite a while.
Correct.
The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the indices are around the 110 to 113,000 mark, so quite stable.
Yeah.
I think basically economic activity is beginning to take place. We know that Durban Port is now having a turnaround strategy. So perhaps you want to give us an update on all these issues.
Sure.
And is there positive sentiments emerging in the markets going into the festive season?
I think firstly, look, I'll start off on the GDP and the economic numbers. A lot of positive, but there are some challenges, and I'll highlight obviously some of the challenges as well. I think on the positive side, firstly, very importantly, we've seen from the second quarter to the third quarter that the economy has continued to grow positively. And importantly, key industries are seeing growth. So you're seeing the mining industry, you're seeing the agricultural industry, you're seeing the forestry and fishing industry. Those industries all seeing decent positive growth and momentum coming through, and it's important because it's contributing towards employment and job growth in those major industries as well, and at the same time contributing to the government coffers and fiscus, which means more money for government to spend on key activities in the country as well. I think what we have seen is that mining in particular has benefited a lot from the growth in prices. So, I mean, those that are getting married or buying jewelry, this time of the year, they want to buy, splurge a bit and the like. You'll notice that the price of gold jewelry relative to last year has gone up substantially. A hell of a lot. Those that obviously bought Kruger coins and the like, they're smiling if they bought it a year ago, 2 years ago. But now those that are getting married now and give meher, you're buying a Kruger coin, the price has gone up, 50% or so year on year, and even more if you look at it 2 years back. So it's gone up. So that the gold prices in particular, but also platinum prices. Platinum prices in dollar terms 6 to 9 months ago were trading around $1,100 an ounce. Today they're trading around $1,450 an ounce, a 30-40% increase over 6 to 9 months. Again, a big impact as well. So it's good for the country because what we are seeing is we're exporting those minerals. And very importantly, when we're exporting it to countries like the US, and I'm going to chat about the US and its impact of the tariffs, but those metals are excluded from the tariffs. So our entry into the US in terms of our export of platinum, gold, is going with no tariffs. So we continue to export good, decent volumes, and we're getting the benefit of the high platinum and gold prices, which is positive for the country as well. The second point to highlight is that I think we are seeing that other sectors such as the agriculture, which was a concern for us because agriculture was potentially going to be impacted quite negatively with the tariffs. Surprisingly, agriculture has still continued to see still positive growth. And it's important because we are seeing movement of our agriculture also into other markets as well. So more and more we're trading with the countries, whether it's Asia, the Middle East and the like, and there's decent momentum continuing that, and it's important because it's helping us to sustain our growth in that. The negative though that we are seeing is that, you remember last week we had the G20 successful. Now it has been handed over to the US. Immediately, as soon as it got handed over to the US, Mr. Trump comes in and says, he always comes up with his stupid comments and ideas. But one of the issues that he has highlighted is that he's now stopped all payments and any funding to any South African organizations as effective immediately as at a few days back. What that means, though, is that it impacts us particularly within the healthcare sector. So, for example, HIV/AIDS-related programs, and there are other healthcare-related programs as well in the country, which do rely on some form of funding that comes from the US. Now, that has been put to a stop immediately. Now, whether obviously there's behind the scenes, we're going to try and negotiate and try and get back, but for the time being, those programs will be impacted. So, with the result, there will be some impact in the HIV, particularly that funding related programs. And I think there's certain other related healthcare. Secondly, also payments that may be due in certain things, the US is holding back on that. So I think that is a bit of a negative and a challenge. And still those tariffs of 30% remain in place. So our exports in terms of the motor car industry is being impacted. And then secondly, the agricultural exports going into the US are still going to continue to be impacted as well. So I think that we must still bear in mind from a cautious tone. I just want to note that over the next couple of months in particular, we may have some challenges related to our trade with the US because of these, unfair and unrealistic type of impositions being made against us by the US. From an internal and local perspective, there's a couple of key positive turnarounds taking place. So we've talked about earlier a lot around the MAGLANGA Commission and the highlight around the focus on corruption, and hopefully some positive momentum continues on that end where there's prosecution and arrests and the like that has. But what we are seeing is that within certain key areas where we've had challenges over the last decade, be it the rail sector, be it the port sector, and be it the energy sector, all of those areas are seeing positive momentum coming through. Energy-wise, Eskom reported its first profit in the last 8 years. And they seeing at least consistency in supply in terms of electricity to the country. So that's very important, because that means reduced load shedding means reduced impact on small and medium enterprise businesses in particular. Therefore, we can have good growth coming through, hopefully, from many of those businesses. Secondly, the ports have been a disaster for us over the last number of years. 2 years ago, Durban Port, I remember, not 2023, December, we had containers sitting at the port waiting for weeks. There was mad delays in terms of and that's why retailers were up in arms, because they were relying on one of the stock to come through for the December rush and the January school and whatever it may be, and many of the containers came in delayed. They were impacted. Now what we're seeing is, for example, permits, turnaround times for permits in the port from 10 to 12 days, they've reduced to 48 hours. Big turnaround and improvement in Durban Port. Remember, Durban Port controls or manages around 60% of South Africa's containers. That's a big amount. So Durban Port is a big player in terms of our shipping and our trade with many of the world, especially China and those countries. And if Durban Port is under pressure, it puts us a lot under pressure. So I think the fact that Durban Port is starting to turn around, you're seeing slowly an improvement in efficiencies, and the fact that containers are moving a lot quicker, it's good for our retailers, it's also good for our exports going out of the country as well. So that's an improvement. The rail infrastructure. Rail, we've seen it in the mining side. There's been year-on-year improvement in terms of mining volumes up between 10 to 20%. That's a fantastic improvement in terms of volumes. So more exports going out of the country at the higher prices means we're earning more income. Secondly, with the talk around the public and private partnerships. For example, there's a company called Traxtion. They are going to be investing 3.4 billion rands in the rail. So 46 locomotives, 920 wagons, and also on some certain infrastructure, which will help in terms of, again, improving our rail infrastructure. That's been one of our biggest disasters in the last decade, is because you've seen rail volumes from the peak when the Mbeki era, when we were really pumping in terms of our mining and the like, they were down like close to 30% or so, from 40% from that time till 2021, 2022, 2023. But now slowly we're seeing an improvement coming through again in that area. And with this public and private partnerships, I think more and more we'll see of that. I think we're going to see an improvement in terms of rail. Ports, remember Durban Port, the Philippine company will be coming through and taking over the port in the coming year. That hopefully will have an improvement again in terms of more activity, more trade, and more income being earned by, firstly, the city of Durban, and then secondly also from a country perspective as well. So I think there's a lot of positives coming through. In terms of continued investments, I've spoken in length over the last number of weeks in terms of the property related stuff, but we are seeing also 1-2 businesses opening up. For example, there's a big hardware store called Leroy Merlin that's going to be opening up. It's basically a French company. It's a French company. They're opening up here in Konobia, a 220 million rand store, a huge home improvement store that's going to be opening up in Konobia. Again, foreign investors coming into the country, setting up a big store, like how Walmart just opened up recently in Johannesburg, and they're going to be opening up more stores. This is now a French company that's opening up a big store here on our doorstep, and the intention is to also roll out further over the next couple. So again, good investment coming through from foreigners, and again, the locals are gaining more confidence in terms of business momentum. I think early indications are that hotel bookings across the country, especially the likes of Cape Town, Durban, and some of the other major tourist spots in the country, there's indications that there should be a decent December coming through. Still early days, but hopefully, inshallah, I think over the next few weeks we'll see that. But early indications are that we should see some positive momentum. And if we have a good December, January, it bodes well in terms of moving into the new year. And I think but the dark cloud that still sits over us is our relationship and the trade with the US. That remains a potential hamstring to us. And diplomatically, Trump is not inviting us to the first meeting that's taking place, I think, in Florida, but very soon. Unfortunately, we're not being invited for that. Let's hope that at least over the next few months, diplomatic relations improve. That allows us to But what is happening, though, is although that is taking place, you're slowly seeing our relationship with Europe, our relationship with the BRICS countries, particularly India, China, and Brazil, is improving significantly. That means we're doing more. Intention is to do more and more business with those countries to help diversify and move away our risk from being reliant on a country like the US. And hopefully, I think we will improve that going forward. But that is a risk for us and remains a challenge for us in the year ahead.
Well, we know that Trump is behaving like a crybaby because we took Israel on in the ICJ. He didn't come for the G20. He's attracting our Afrikaners out there. So, he's behaving very immaturely, and I'm sure time will sort this problem out. Hassan, thanks for those positive and stimulating financial indicators. I'm sure most of our people out there hearing positive news would be happy. Just before we go on a quick break in our final session, we'll be interviewing Ahmed Mansoor, Sheikh Imam. He's the former MP in the National Assembly, and also he was the leader of the AM4C. I want to mention that a lot of people have inquired what's happening about the Durban Summit Souk. You guys are not advertising. So we're going to splash it all over the place on Monday after we have our media launch, which is the 8th of December, whereafter, the Souk will be advertised as running from December the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, into the new year, which is the January the 5th. Just some statistics from my perspective when I do my closing speech in the Souk. We're expecting more than 120,000 people to attend the Souk. We're expending a turnover spend, Hassan, of about 100 million for the 12 days.
Sure.
The stalls will turn around, and we're hoping to employ more than 3,000 people. So it's a tourist attraction. It's an economic hub of activity. It's sort of an area where people can come and spend days, and we're expecting a lot of tourists. So inshallah, from next week, there'll be advertising and marketing going through. So on that note, we'll have a break, and inshallah, we'll continue with our final segment of News in Focus after the break.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al-Ansar.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 888 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
You know what really gets under my skin? When my cake or icing just doesn't come out right. It's such a bummer. But I found this incredible margarine called Wooden Spoon, and it's been a total lifesaver for my baking adventures. It makes my icing turn out just perfect every time. When I whip up something with Wooden Spoon, I feel like a master baker. Seriously, my cakes have never looked better. The secret? Wooden Spoon margarine. It's like the magic ingredient for nailing those perfect bakes. And guess what? It's even endorsed by the South African Bakers Guild Association. Just another quality product from the Willowton Group.
Durban Halal Meats, the butcher with a twist. Whether you're firing up the braai or stocking up for your business, we've got you covered. From premium lamb, beef and chicken to custom cuts and bulk orders, all 100% halal, certified by Sanha. Enjoy our convenient buy and braai service, fast delivery and easy online ordering at durbanhalalmeats.co.za. Visit us at 84 Felix Dlamini Road, Durban Halal Meats. Quality, affordability, trust, meat made better.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम तमन्ना है शहरों का सरदार देखो मदीना की गलियां वो बाजार देखो जहां भेज दी रब ने जन्नत बनाकर हबीबे खुदा का वो दरबार देखो तरसती हैं आँखें जिन्हें देखने को वो गुंबद वो जाले वो मीनार देखो गमों में गुजारी है ये जिंदगानी खुशी के वहाँ दिन मैं दो चार देखूं.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, it's News in Focus at 8 p.m. live on Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed. Alhamdulillah, after the last break where we chatted briefly with our political analyst, our economic analyst, HASSAN, who gave us some very interesting news on the sort of financial situation. We are pleased to have live on air after more than 12 months Brother Ahmed Mansoor, Sheikh Imam, former member of the National Assembly of South Africa for the National Freedom Party, former president of AM4C. Alhamdulillah, Ahmed Mansoor was unwell for quite a period of time, and Allah's Fazl and Karam, he's now on the road to recovery. Brother Ahmed, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Jazakallah for having me on the air. And let me start off by saying I appreciate that all the calls that I've been having from our listeners over a period of time during my illness, who have been sending me messages of well-wishing me over the recovery period.
Alhamdulillah, Ahmed. I remember you were my guest for many of my shows over the last couple of years. Some very interesting information you shared with us. Your stance on the Palestinian issue, both in Parliament and otherwise, we missed that. But Alhamdulillah, Allah's fazal, you're on the road to recovery, and I'm sure that you've been keeping recently in touch with the political scenario. What I'm going to do is I've got live with me in the studio Sister SUMAYA Khan. She's co-hosting the show with me. And she wants to ask you some very important questions relating to how did you keep in touch with the political situation, being a political individual for many, many decades. Sumaya, you want to have a quick chat with Brother Ahmed?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We are so glad that, they say your mind is so active and you have to be part of South African politics, because if Brother MUNZOOR SHAIK Imam is not there, former parliament leader of the National Freedom Party and president of AM4C, then we're not done. Because you know your stuff and we need to get you back. And inshallah, we're looking forward to have you in studio with us very soon.
Inshallah.
Do you know, coming back, you were in recovery, alhamdulillah, you are doing quite well and you're recovering. Coming back, what's your views currently on just general, the political front of South Africa?
Well, I think let me start by that famous quote from Nelson Mandela or Madiba, our former president and leader. He said that if the ANC does to you what the apartheid government did to you, then you do to the ANC what you did to the apartheid government. Is that not what we need to do right now? Taking into consideration what has been happening, what we have uncovered. And let me add that this thing is not unexpected. The corruption that we are unpacking right now that's going on with the MAGLANGA Commission and the ad hoc committee. It's something that's been highlighted in Parliament for decades, but nothing has been done about it. And I think one of the important points that I picked up, that nobody, not even the opposition parties, are now addressing the root cause of why we allowed it to go, to the extent it has, and who really has benefited from it. We are missing a very important point, that political parties have been benefiting from this, and that is why political parties that are in power were able to get bigger and bigger and bigger because of the funding that they were getting out of these corrupt activities. If you remember the CEO of supply chain 5 years ago, while I was there, he said that we were losing an approximate amount of 40% on goods and services. And I estimated at that time it was already about 400 billion rand a year that we were losing as a result of not getting value for money in all. Are you there?
Yes.
We are there. We are there. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can.
Go ahead.
Yes. So, not uncovering right now. My only problem is why did we have to allow it to go on to the extent it has? And why are we not changing the system? When I went to Ireland and I came back and I asked them there, we went on an educational tour and I wanted to know, how were you able to deal with corruption? And what I picked up very clearly was that politicians had nothing to do with administration at all. And I came back and I advised them, can you separate the politics from administration? But there's no way political parties are going to be able to do that, because otherwise they are not going to survive. And also want to add that you also blame the voters on the ground. They are also, complicit in what is going on in the country, because they expect these food parcels and T-shirts and things that you have to give them. And where you're going to get the money to be able to give them, that is where the corrupt activities come into play. And where there's a corrupter, there's a corruptee. So the private sector is very much part of the corruption that is taking place in the country. And this is destroying this country. South Africa is a beautiful country. But if you look at what is happening right now, and there's no indication that it's going to come right. And let me make one important point, that all political parties, wherever they govern, whether it's the IFP in KZN, whether it's the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, or it's the whichever political parties, wherever they are governing, it's exactly the same thing. The corruption is rife. If you look at the Western Cape right now, there's a 1.2 billion rand corruption as far as the IT contracts are concerned, over and above the over 1 billion rand corruption in the human settlement. So corruption, the Knysna municipality has been very corrupt for many, many years, and nothing has been done about it. If you look at the IFP-run municipalities in the KZN province particularly, the Auditor General has reported that most of those municipalities are dysfunctional and corruption is rife. But political parties, when they govern together with you, they defend and protect you. They don't expose you because they need your support to be able to govern. So the whole system needs. That is why I repeatedly said what we need a relook at the constitution and the policies. We need to be able, 30 years into democracy, nothing has happened to improve the lives of the poorest of the poor. The rich have gone richer and the poor have gone poorer. That is why I go back. Madiba has said, if the ANC does to you what the apartheid government, then you must do to the ANC what you've done to the apartheid government. So what does it mean? It means you need a revolution in the country. You need to start all over again to give back power to the people on the ground.
Brother Imam, going to impending removal of the ANC president, there's speculations that the ANC says there's no removal planned. So we want to know what is fueling talk of removal of the president of South Africa. There are rumors circulating inside the party that some senior ANC members, particularly in the province like the Eastern Cape, are circulating a letter calling for Ramaphosa's removal as ANC. Well, the speculation intensifies in the wake of recent events, including the international attention over the G20 summit and internal criticism about the ANC performance. So, some political analysts, they predict that at or after the next elective conference scheduled for 2027, the ANC could replace Ramaphosa, pointing to historic patterns where the ANC presidents have been replaced in their second term. So yes, there is active rumors, but again, they are not saying it openly. So what is the official position of the ANC leadership regarding these reports?
Well, it's common practice, not only in South Africa, in the African continent, for that matter, where presidents are don't finish their term of office. So I'm not surprised that we're having a similar situation. And it's not the president alone that's responsible for, it's the ANC policies and accountability as far as the party as a whole is concerned. Now, I can tell you that while the president is aware of all the corruption that has taken place, all the previous presidents will also have been responsible and aware of all the corruption, because they all have been using that funding for their party purposes. So it's not only the president, whether it's the president, deputy president, chairpersons, secretary generals, all of them have been part and parcel, and they know where they've been getting their funding. Nobody goes and gives you 500 million rand to run a presidential campaign without expecting anything in return.
Yeah. So
that is where the corruption comes in. So I think they should be putting the total blame on the president alone. And as far as the G20 is concerned, I think we must still give credit to South Africa that, we hosted a fantastic G20. I think we did a very, very good job as far as that is concerned.
Yeah. Since you touched on Cyril Ramaphosa and the removal, and this is done in so many other countries, would leadership change influence ongoing projects or reforms like economic policies and anti-corruption efforts in South Africa if we change leadership?
The thing is this, I think what is important to note that the ANC recently has been running into trouble. They were not able to pay salaries and things. Their buildings were in trouble. And that tells you that over a period of time, that when you rely on funding from outside sources through corrupt means, it's not going to last. Now, unless you continue with those corrupt practices, you're not going to be able to survive, because you're going to get bigger and bigger as a political party. The DA is having the same problem. So the bigger the party gets, the more money you're going to need to sustain it. But at the same time, money is just not going to flow unless these people are going to benefit. These people that are giving you this funding are going to benefit. They're not going to just give you money for nothing, So that is my problem, that unless you change the system, changing the leaders is not going to solve the problem. Even though you have a government of national unity, the policy is the same. Who appoints these municipal managers and directors? It's the mayors. Who are the mayors? They appoint people from their own political parties, and they appoint people that they would be able to work together with and issue tenders and things like that, and get monies to enhance their political parties and their agendas. So that is the problem you got. The whole system needs a relook. You need to separate administration from politics and have independent bodies that are appointing officials. And politicians should be conducting oversight. They shouldn't be getting involved in issues of supply chain. They can agree and sort out programs and things and approve them. But when it comes to issuing of these tenders and things and deciding who should be employed as directors and CFOs and things, they should have nothing to do with it. And as long as you don't change that, you're not going to improve the quality of life of our people. Because right now, as I speak to you, there are places in the country that people are having meetings with officials and corrupt officials and politicians that are discussing tenders and things, and all they sit and talk about is how much am I going to get out of it, if I gave you this contract. And that is where the problem is. So you are paying sometimes 10 times more. I mean, take a 360 million rand contract like you are now observing that is taking place with the Tembisa Hospital and things. Just look at the one contract alone. What was the real value of that contract? It would have been 50 million or 100 million, but you paid 360 million. And that too, it was not done. So that is the problem you're sitting with. The problem is that although there is legislation to cover these things with the PFMA and the Municipal Finance Management Act, but it's not being complied with. The Auditor General, when they pick these things up, their lives are in danger because they are threatened. There are cases I know when the Auditor General has come to us and has complained that their lives are in danger because they've been threatened. So there's no protection for them. You saw what happened to the whistleblowers, those that want to do their job and do it ethically, like Babita Deokaran. You can see she paid the ultimate price. There is no protection for people of that nature. So, we have a major problem in the country, and corruption is rife.
Do you know what is likely to happen while we round off between now and 2027 elective conference from now till then?
Well, there's a possibility that they can attempt to remove the president, but that's not going to solve the problem in the country. It's going to destabilize the country. It's also going to give parties the opportunity, to capitalize on this, and this is what is happening. But I've learned one thing out of politics: if you don't get what you want, they don't mind even if you destroy the whole organization. You can do that, but if you don't get it, then nobody must get it, and that is the mentality, unfortunately, in politics at the moment.
Brother Ahmed Manzoor Sheikh Imam, former Parliament Leader of National Freedom Party, President of AM4C, Jazakallah so much for taking the time to link up with us and imparting your knowledge, which we surely do miss. And inshallah, may the Almighty bless you with good health, and looking forward to have you with us, especially next year, municipality elections, to be in studio with us and doing live shows. Jazakallah once again.
So that was Brother Sheikh Imam Ahmed Mansoor. I remember he's back to his vibrant best from a political perspective. He was also one of the members of the Impact Committee in the Tekwini municipality about a decade ago when we were there. And I know he used to raise a lot of issues relative to maladministration. So may Allah give him good health to recover. And I'm sure in the new year he'll join us live in the studio. That brings us to the end of News in Focus for this evening. It's 10:09. We're 10 minutes over our time. As Sumaya mentioned, a lot of guys want to go and start watching soccer. And there's other commitments also. But I thank all our listeners for listening to us, our guests for joining us this evening. Starting off with Noreen Ganesh. He's the political head of NIXA. HASSAN MOTALA, our economist and economic analyst, Sister SUMAYA Khan, for co-hosting the show with me. Some very important research she's undertaken on the state of municipalities, the update on the MKWANAZI inquest, the impending removal of the ANC president, the MAGLANGA commission. SUMAYA, I know Wednesday evenings is quite late for you, but you're sacrificing a lot of time to join us and share some valuable information with us. And the research you've undertaken is very, very valuable. And I think this interview you had with Imam, was a very enlightening interview, particularly from an individual that was politically active all his life, and the kind of questions you encourage him shows, how people's minds are post ill health. Because I know he could hardly talk for the last 12 months. So Allah gave him the strength to continue. He made some pertinent comments. Very important was the fact that you need to separate the administration from the political to really make a change. We've been talking about that. I mentioned that the souk is around the corner. Inshallah, we'll be throwing up a lot of marketing campaigns and adverts going forward. We look forward to meeting everybody there. Next week, inshallah, we'll have another show. But I always like to end that as Muslims, we have firm faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of this universe. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Everything happens through the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has guided us with commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, through the various ayats in the Holy Quran. And if we obey Allah's commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, we are good human beings. The best amongst us, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, is those that help others, those that feed others. So as the Al-Ansar Foundation, we will continue with our good practices of providing humanitarian service. And to you, Sumaya, for the kind of service you're giving to the education sector. And I know recently you had a program where you've been handing more than 100 learners with uniforms, and you're going to continue with that kind of assistance to the indigent communities in the various schools. You have to continue with this effort, because a lot of these school children come from very poor backgrounds, and for them to have a new uniform on the first day of school, I know back in the days, we don't want to say how many decades ago, but we used to look forward to new uniform. This isn't so asif, so that you feel proud when you're walking on the first day with your grey shorts and your white shirt. Now they wear grey longs with the white shirts, and most of the Muslim girls with their abayas, etc. They feel good to come to school, and inshallah our learning setup has gone to another level. So on that note, we thank you all for joining us this evening, including our technical staff here, Asif Peli. He's always quite sharp in the technical side of things here, and if there's a break, he quickly gets it right. Next Wednesday, inshallah, we'll have another enlightening program with our guests in the studio, many of them. Inshallah, Sumaya will join us again. She's trying to get used to News in Focus, but because of the time it takes, it's important that we have different sort of type of investigations coming into News in Focus. And as I mentioned, our focus is on what's trending in South Africa and indeed worldwide. So if anybody has got any comments they want us to cover, please feel free to send us a message on our WhatsApp line 0609049041056 06090411056, and inshallah we will cover those subjects. Until next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Ansaar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Ansaar, keeping you informed.
السلام 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 سلام یار غار ابو بکر پر سلام پہ کرے عدل و انصاف پر سلام پیارے داماد عثمان پر سلام پیارے حیدر کرار پر سلام فاتح روم و ایران پر سلام فاتح فارس و شام پر سلام حسنین کریمین پر سلام ان کے ایمان و ایقان پر سلام ان کے بے باک جاں باز پر سلام ان کے ہر جنگ و غزوات پر سلام ان کے تیر اور تلوار پر سلام ان کے جنگی کمالات پر سلام ان کی آل اور اصحاب پر سلام ان کی پاکیزہ ازواج پر سلام ان کے اسفار و اطہار پر سلام ان کی ہر ملا